right, so it's been a long time coming, but I'm going to do a miniature painting and teach you some of the basics. All I have here is, I think this is a brush set from Walmart. I got some wide, got some small, got some detail brushes, and I have heavy body acrylics. They are like $10 each, and I only have black, white, yellow, red, and blue. And this is a phthalo blue because not all blues are going to get you a sky blue or an ocean blue, but this is one of the primary colors. So, I looked up on Pinterest of a picture or a landscape that I wanted to do, and it's one that I used to do all the time when I used to teach painting paint nights. And I would make these little miniature paintings, probably a little bit bigger than this, and they would always sell. And it is this pink sand beach scene. So we're gonna do that. So I usually start out with a big flat brush just so I can paint the whole thing. And I'm gonna need a bit of every color, so I'm gonna have a little bit of blue here for the sky, a bit of the water. Okay. We got blue. Get out of my way. We got Naphthol Crimson. Sure. It's red. And just a tiny touch of that. We're going to be making pinks. And this is a yellow light Hansa. I'm not sure what the actual primary yellow is, but this is gonna have to do. You can use dollar store paints too, but these ones are really opaque and solid, so they're good to have some of the more expensive brands sometimes. Titanium white, we're probably gonna need a good blob of that. I definitely don't need all of this paint for this tiny canvas, but maybe I'll do another one afterwards. And we're just gonna need a tiny touch of black. Just a very tiny amount. Okay. So the first thing I'm gonna do is wet my brush. And I like to squeegee some of the water off on the side just so my painting doesn't get runny. So the first thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to mash up some of this white, pull it away to the side, and I'm just going to take a tiny touch of red, just the corner of my brush, and mix it into the side here. So I got a light pink, and I'm going to use the rule of thirds. This top third is going to be for the sky, this bottom third is going to be the nice pink beach. And I'm pretty sure that pink beach is because of, what is it? The dead crustaceans or the dead shrimp. I can't quite remember. I think it has something to do with flamingos, and you know how they eat so much shrimp, that's why their feathers are pink. Legit, go Google it. So what I'm doing over here is I'm adding a touch of yellow into my pink, so now it's kind of more of a peachy color. But yeah, I'm just going to blend that in. Blend it in. And I don't always like having a solid color, so I like brushing in a bit of solid red, a bit of solid yellow, just so that, you know, it changes. There's different hues going on. Yeah, it's more interesting that way. Get those very small sides. And if you're brushing on the easel, friggin', yeah, do it up. I'm not taking this thing off. This thing is glued right on, so I'm just going to town. It kind of gives it that, like, rusticy painter looking thing, too. And I'm just going to swipe in a touch of white. Just mush it. Yeah, looks organic. I also need paper towel, so a moment. So I have 2 pieces of paper towel. I'm gonna keep one on my lap just in case something crazy happens, like something spills or some bullshit. And one leave right there. So I'm washing my brush, dabbing it around the bottom, and again I squeegee it off on the side. I should probably show you what I'm talking about. Okay, the water thing is over there, right? Okay. So I'm dabbing it around the bottom and squeegeeing off on the side of the glass just to get all that excess out. And I'm doing it a couple times because there's one smidge that just won't go. But yeah, the reason I'm doing this is because we're about to change colors from, you know, warm tones of pink and orange and red, and I'm gonna divide this clump of white here, and from the side of my blue I'm taking a bit of that and mixing it in with the white, and that looks kind of like a sky blue. That's a bit better, where it's got some variation. And starting right at the side here, in one brush stroke, I'm gonna go all the way across, start at the other side, come all the way across, and I'm just gonna go back and forth a couple times. Whew! And you gotta blend. Beautiful. Yeah. Get those sides, just give me a little tap. And I'm gonna get messy with it. I want the easel to kind of show the colors on it too, because I like it. Yeah. And I don't like to overblend. Like I said, you want to see a bit of red, you want to see a bit more yellow areas. Same thing with the sky. You want to see some lighter blues. Can swipe in a bit of darker blue at the top here. And a lot of people go straight across, and that's a great way to make an easy blend. But if you want a bit of, you know, more dynamicness to your paintings, I like to go on a bit of a diagonal, like the wind is blowing or something. And I'm going to add a bit more white to the corner here just because, just because I want it to be a semi-bright, happy day, you know? Okay, so I'm going to keep this mesh of blue here, this light blue. And I'm going to add a touch of yellow, making sure that I'm not touching any of the red that's messed up in there. And I'm gonna make kind of a minty light green. Something along those lines. So in the water, right up close to the shore here, the water gets pretty green just because the algae and science. Okay? So in the photo, it's on kind of like a diagonal here. There's that minty green. And I don't want to blend it too much because my pink underneath is probably still a bit wet, so that's why it's not really cooperating. And I think I could probably use a smaller brush at this point because I'm getting into the details now. So this buddy, we are saying sayonara to. But make sure to, again, clean your brush, dab it around the bottom, squeegee it off on the side, and dry it on your paper towel as, you know, brush it as the bristles, brush as the bristles should be, like on their flat side. And then leave it out to dry, because if you leave your brushes in the water, then it messes the glue up in between the metal and the bristles, and then the handle starts to get wobbly and the bristles start to fall out, so it's just good to take care of your brushes. So for this next step, I'm getting into more details. I think I'm going to just go with the smaller square brush here. Yeah. Okay. So a little bit of water on your brush will help rehydrate the paint. And I'm not using the square side, I'm using the thinner side, going horizontally like this. I'm just gonna swoosh it in there. I'm gonna get some more blue, blend it in with a bit of that green so it's not such a hard transition. Just going left to right, doing little swipes. I think I need more paint. Add some white to that. White can never hurt sometimes, but alright, so I got a deeper-ish blue here. So right up by the shore, it's gonna stay pretty green, but as the water recedes, it's gonna get slightly darker. And it's daytime right now, so it's not gonna get crazy dark, but as the water falls back, the color of the water does get darker. So we've got all these really nice colors in here. That's really why I like this painting, is because it's kind of abstract, but it's a real place in the world. So it's a good conversation starter for sure. Okay, what was our next step? All right, I'm gonna teach you how to do some clouds. Let's do it. I'm gonna take a little clump of white, not a big clump. And what I'm gonna do here is, because our sky is on a diagonal, I'm gonna put a kind of a line right here, just kind of a dotted line. My hand's actually really shaky right now for some reason, but. So I put a dotted line. The reason I put a dotted line is because the atmosphere of the sky usually makes a cloud flat on the bottom. And then on the top, I'm kind of just gonna blob and swirl, you know, have some high peaks, have some low peaks. And then it kind of tapers off near the end. So that's a traditional looking cloud. And I'm gonna add a few more flat-ish clouds. Just little ones. And don't blend too much. You do want to see some strong white right at the top of the clouds for where the sun hits. And if you make your paint really thick, especially with clouds, it kind of gives it that 3D effect. It gives it a little bit more life and texture. And I'm also going to have a cloud that's going off the edge of the canvas. I noticed when I taught, a lot of people would paint their clouds all in the center and kind of blocked in within the square or the shape. And it's just better to believe that the world continues on outside of this painting. So I feel like that's pretty good. I got clouds going off to the side, I got some big ones, some little ones, and yeah, I got some texture there. So I think it's pretty good. Take it one cloud at a time. Again, I'm gonna wash my brush, and what I'm thinking we could do is add some of those black rocks for landscape. This black is pretty thick, so I'm gonna dip my brush into the water and carry just a droplet of water over and dilute my black paint down a bit. So this is gonna help it be more controllable, and when we're painting the rocks, it'll give us a crisper line at the edge instead of having like the paint is grabbing onto the texture of the canvas and you can't get a straight line. That's what your problem is. Need to add some water, mush it in there. So my brush is full, but there's no clumps, so it's all kind of mushed out of my brush. So it's full, but it is still thin and clean and ready to go. So right at the horizon line here, I'm just going to do a little speckled line to divide the sky from the ground. I'm going to get that edge. Don't forget your edges, even if they are like a few millimeters. And with the square of this brush, it's really good for making organic shaped rocks because it's already blocky and squarish. Yeah, you want to keep a straight line for the most part. You can do a couple more flat lines and places where rocks are going to go. I think I want my rocks to stop right about here. So I'm going to put one maybe there. I'm going to put maybe another one coming out this way, going off the canvas. And you want to just kind of shake your brush around, mess around with it a little bit, just so you're not mimicking exact shapes all the way through. I might even connect this with this upper land to show that maybe there's like a little cave basin thing. I don't really know how to explain it, but it gives it more depth. It makes you want to go into that little space and see what's going on, you know? And even if I want to add some really tiny rocks, I'm going to just use the corner of my brush. I'm going to add some little rocks. It's almost like the clouds. They're flat at the bottom because the ground is flat. The rocks are going to be submerged under that sand over time. So it's kind of like the atmosphere. So yeah, flat at the bottom. Add some little ones. Add some big ones. It is really hard to paint small, honestly. Like, my hand is shaking. Do you see this? I used to tell my students all the time too, if you're shaking, you need to take a break and you need to breathe. And I've been talking this whole time, so I don't think I've been breathing really. In the nose, out the mouth. Okay. Alright, got some rocks, maybe another little one back there. Again, make sure that the bottom of the rock is flat, because otherwise it kind of doesn't make sense for some reason. So, that is pretty good. Alright, happy with it. Should I put a rock out in the distance? You know what? Yeah, we're gonna do it. We're gonna do it. Okay. I'm gonna put a rock, give it a bit of an angle, kind of give it that rocky texture. You know, give you a little rock to inspire you to go and jump and swim to, whatever. And the bottom isn't flat, but I'm gonna add a bit of shadow, a little bit more realism to this painting. So I washed my brush, squeegeed it off, and when it comes to shadows in the water, they're usually a dark blue, and this paint is getting thicker by the minute, so I'm going to dilute it down just a little bit. Again, my brush is full, but it is not clumpy, so I'm going to go right under the rock, and with my flat side, I'm going to very gently do like a little ziggy-zaggy shadow where it is. And I kind of break it up here. If you can see, it's not a solid shape. It's kind of a bunch of thin little lines. You can still kind of see a bit of the green through it, just so that it looks like waves and ripples, because if it's a solid color, you get kind of confused. And I think I'm gonna add a little bit more of this light minty green that I made. So that was a touch of blue, a good amount of white, because we're getting close to the shore here, and a touch of yellow. And as a reminder, I always take from the side of my blobs, because if you go right into the middle, you ruin the whole color if you want to use some of it later on. So take from the side. Always scrape from the side. So I got this minty green again, maybe a touch more yellow. I want to exaggerate my colors here. And I'm just going to go side to side, left to right, and I'm just going to kind of, I'm not really blending, but I'm breaking up that blue shape a little bit, and I'm bringing in some more of that bright algae green closer towards us. And if there's any bottom of the rock that you want to touch up and flatten out, this would be a good way to do that. If you're having a really hard time blending, it's probably because the acrylic paint already dried, and again, that's why I keep adding water so that the paint stays wet for a relatively long time. But yeah, if that section is dried out and you really absolutely want to blend, then you're gonna have to re-add that color. So another way that you could kind of get away with blending is just having a clean, damp brush and just kind of mushing around the paint in the direction that you want, and it'll just kind of fade out the last color that was wet over the dry color. You follow? Okay. Whew, we're getting there. Okay, so I think the last thing I wanted to do was we're gonna add these Whitecaps that come up on the shore, you know, kind of that sea foam. So I'm gonna take a clump of white and put it to the side, and I'm gonna add a droplet of water and just mush it around and dilute it. Mush, 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 mush. Gotta get out those clumps, damn it. Again, my brush is full, but I'm scraping and flattening away the paint so that it's full, but it's not clumpy. Alright, so for these Whitecaps, what you want to do is kind of like these ovalic C shapes. So I'll show you one here, and I'm just painting very lightly, and I'm kind of doing it in a whip, kind of quick. If you want to practice this shape with a pen or pencil, or even the paint on your table or your little, you know, on a piece of paper, whatever you have here, then you can do that. But I'm just gonna go for it here. So right where the green ends, I'm gonna do a little kind of like a C whip. Whew. So there's one. Gonna round it out a little bit more, and I'm just kind of lightly dragging that white back into the water. And everything is horizontal because the ground is flat, everything is going to be flat. You don't want to get wiggly too much. You really, like, when it comes to painting, you got to think logically about what direction things are. Like, that's why the landscape is flat, that's why the bottom of the rocks are flat, and it's a rack on the brain sometimes, but it works. So just very lightly, grazingly, add a few white lines to where the green and the orange pinkish color meet. That can also kind of give the illusion of blending and kind of give the illusion that there's sea foam and light hitting the waves. I'm putting a touch. I'm not going to underline this rock, but I do like to put a touch of little white waves happening there. My hand kind of shook, and it gave me a little bit of bumpy, blobby watermarks, but it kind of looks like the water is capping over and the sea foam is bubbling up, so it doesn't look terrible, so I think I might keep it. Going back in with the white, we're going to do another sea cap, maybe right about here. So it's a very long, stretched out oval. Like if we were looking at it from like a bird's eye view up top, then the shapes would probably almost be a half circle. But because we're standing at it at an angle, that's why it's an oval shape. Whew. Follow? Okay. Right around the end of this sea cap, I'm going to make sure that's a nice bright white because that's where all of the sea foam is going to collect. And I think I might just put another small one right around here that goes to the corner of the canvas. And if it overlaps this one, that's fine. That's actually what waves do. Their caps kind of overlap and kind of fight for the attention. So, yeah, nice. Beautiful. Got all those colors. Got a nice, bright, happy painting to look at and help you dream about vacationing. And my phone is ringing. Gonna have to wait. I'm teaching a class. No phones in class, please. Ugh, okay. So I think for one final detail, I'm gonna get even a smaller brush. And you can have, you know, a really thin one, but I have this like angled square one that I'm going to use. And I'm just going to add a bit of highlight to the rock. So I'm just going to mix a medium gray. And I don't even mix my colors entirely blended to one solid color. Like sometimes I'll leave a bit of everything on there. It kind of helps the rocks give more texture. And as Bob Ross says, it's kind of a happy accident when, you know, something happens that you didn't really intend, but it works. So I'm imagining the sun is in this top right corner, so I'm only going to paint the right top side of the rocks as, you know, the sun would hit the rocks and the beach. And again, kind of with the ground logic, you know, the top of this rock would be flat and choppy, so I'm trying to mimic my brush strokes to what I painted with this rock. Ooh, yeah. Ooh. Do, 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 do. Okay. All right. Awesome. Well, that seems pretty good to me. I hope you guys learned something. If you guys have any questions or, you know, want to learn anything else, I'll probably be back with another video on how to paint mountains or trees at some point. But yeah, if you like this, obviously give it a like, leave a comment, subscribe, check out my Instagram at Dita.Did. I do lots of random things. I do painting a lot, but I'm going to be getting more into making embroidery and clothes and masks and props and things like that, because sometimes a flat surface is just not enough, you know? Alright, that is the painting. I hope you guys enjoyed. Don't forget to sign your work, and